Tim, you've been quoted as saying, never give up, never lose sight of your goals. Do you remember what your goal was when you took this job in 2004?
It was really to try and build a world that did not tolerate poverty. Poverty, we often think, is just a given, natural, fated condition. I discovered in my work that actually poverty has a lot to do with the lottery of latitude. If I'm born here in Australia, universal health, universal education, clean water. If I was born in Mozambique or in Syria, then I drew last ticket in the lottery. Here in Australia, I got first prize. And so challenging that lottery, saying that poverty can be overcome, people will still make bad choices, but where they haven't ever had a choice because of crippling poverty, is something I can do something about, and World Vision stands for that.
What's the major philosophy behind the establishment of the Wills and Bequests program?
So Wills and Bequests program is a recognition that most of us come into life with nothing, and we sure can't take it with us. Sure, we should provide for our families, but if we leave them too much, we might even ruin them and set up fights. So really, when our lives have had significance in relationship and doing good, beyond our life in death, that good, that significance continues. And that Wills and Bequests program is saying, in World Vision's case, for children who wouldn't get clean water or enough food or education without you, even beyond this life, your significance, your contribution is immeasurable. And think of World Vision in the Wills and Bequests program.
We often hear it said that people should put their money where their mouths are. Of course, in making a bequest or becoming a bequestor, you're doing exactly that.
Absolutely. It's why in my will I have left a bequest to World Vision and some other options of groups I support. And I know that despite Australians feeling we're under pressure with cost of living, we often confuse cost of living and cost of a lifestyle. I'm much richer in my lifestyle than my parents. My parents were much richer than their parents. I actually am blessed, and in a bequest I actually regain perspective and say, I want some of that blessing to continue to others.
One of the things you stress very heavily in promoting the Wills and Bequests program is that it just doesn't benefit one generation, it benefits many.
Absolutely. The extraordinary thing is how work through World Vision is work with a whole community and then succeeding generations. Money goes a lot further in terms of its impact, its longevity, when it's spent in Africa or Asia in terms of clean water and education, and that generation then doing the same for their children. So that longevity really thrills me.
The 40-Hour Famine has and continues to be one of the most successful fundraising ventures by World Vision, but of course it's much more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, now generations of young people, many of them are in Parliament and in business, so I was first really sensitised to the fact that I'm blessed by going without food for 40 hours. Of course, we know the fridge is always there. There's money in our pocket for McDonald's. And to actually experience in your body those hunger pangs and realise this is how a lot of people my age actually are confronted with life, where there isn't a ready supply of food and security around the things we take for granted, flicks a switch. We get out of our bubble of just, of course, everything's provided into this is how others live. So it's an education, experiential event, which I think is as important as the funds it raises.
Australia doesn't really enjoy a particularly good reputation when it comes to philanthropic giving, does it, say, compared to the United States? Dick Smith recently accused the top end of town, in fact, of being greedy and selfish.
Yeah, there's a very perverse thing going on here. We know from our database here at World Vision, and we're one of the largest charities, that most of the giving comes from the poorer postcodes in Australia. Explain that. Not from the richer ones. And I think the American tradition, for example, where Andrew Carnegie, the industrialist philanthropist, said, the man who dies rich dies disgraced. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and lots of people there are practicing a sense of giving back now. And I think that is yet to really take off in Australia. We've got some way to go here.
Do you believe that the news media is really doing enough to truly convey the real horrors of what's happening in developing countries?
Yes, so news medias always start with, is there an Australian involved, and people are local. In some ways, the response to the tsunami was because Australians died. Now, Australians aren't dying in Syria, so that angle means they go, oh, well, people won't be interested. I actually think news media treats people a bit too simplistically, that Australians are very practical, very generous. We see it in bushfires, we see it in all sorts of ways, that actually if they took a risk on telling this story, they might be surprised that Australians respond, because I think that's in our nature.
Tim Costello, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for talking to us.
A pleasure.